everyone, I am Conquering History Games, and welcome back to a brand new campaign on the channel. Today we are going to be playing some... Hold on a sec. Tick up just a little bit. Alright, so today we are going to be playing as Brazil in Kaiserreich. We are on version 0.9.1, but I haven't really spent too much time down here in South America recently. I'm going to hear about that in the comments. Yeah, it's been a little while since I did just plain old Kaiserreich without the anime portraits, which gets everybody into a seething rage for some reason. But according to the community poll, you all wanted me to play a national populist ideology country. I thought that, maybe paternal autocrats would get some love for once, but I was wrong. And so what we're going to be doing, I'll tell you guys right now, probably says it in here, we're going to be going down the Regency into the Brazilian Empire. I know that there are a few Integralist Brazil campaigns that are already out there on YouTube, but most of them are pretty old, and things have gotten really different, including the possibility to do things like go like spread into Africa. So things can get pretty interesting. So I'm going to be doing a few episodes of this and then at some point after a couple episodes of this campaign have gone by, I'll be uploading the Brazil guide, which is sponsored by my Patreon, Nitrogame. Because I'm trying to find time to do these guides. I've got a backlog of requests that I need to get through, but sometimes when you're doing the guides, you go, man, this country's kind of fun. I want to try them out. And actually do a proper campaign. So we'll be doing Brazil today. I'll also probably separate to a guide do a video where I'll talk about all these different leaders of Brazil. Maybe not every leader, but just highlight some people, because there's some pretty interesting dudes here. Because I didn't really know much about Brazil during this period. Most of my knowledge of Brazil is post World War II, especially in like the 80s and 90s. I actually once did a group. I once collaborated with a couple of people. We did an extended paper on the history of Brazilian currency in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Spoiler alert: inflation, inflation, and redistribution of, or I should say, reissuing of currency. That's pretty much what the whole paper was: inflation, redistribute, or not redistribute, reissue, inflation, reissue, inflation, reissue, inflation, reissue, and it's actually possible. To have a little bit of inflation here if you went down this path. We won't be, though. Anyway, I've been chit-chatting a bit. Let's get setting up here. Alright, thankfully, we do start with 3 research slots, so we at least have that going for us. Now, we have our Navy, Air, and Army stuff that we could do here, but I think what we're going to do is grab this, at least initially... Wait. No. Let's go over our national spirits, though, so you can kind of understand what's going on here. This is 1936 Brazil. We have election year tensions, which are increasing the daily political power cost. That's just going to take care of itself. We've got extreme decentralization going on. The United States of Brazil has always prized the autonomy of its states. Each has its own president, its own political parties, and its own military. And the people have shown themselves willing to die for these regional rights. However, this does result in a very weak and toothless central government, which cannot act decisively when required. We also so because of this, political power gain is down as well as stability. It's the wake of the war. We just got out of a war. I wonder with who. So that's few wounds take longer to heal than a civil war, the war between the states. Oh yeah, excuse me. I'm so sorry. I believe that the way the new lore works, I hope I'm remembering this correctly, is that Brazil did get in a war. Got involved in the stuff down here with like Paraguay and Bolivia and stuff, but then there was a civil war. So the civil war happened afterwards, after this fight. But war between the states left thousands dead and many more orphaned and homeless as the tensions between the political oligarchies and regional identities finally boiled over to the battlefield after troops from Minas Gerais trespassed into Sao Paulo. Any actions the central government tries to do are now viewed with immense distrust, and the sheer damage caused on the border between Rio and Sao Paulo has not yet been fully repaired. This is increasing our justified war goal time as well as lowering war support and daily political power gain. Finally, we have a divided military. Brazil's armed forces are simply a ragtag group of 26 state militias, a so-called federal army in Rio de Janeiro, and its navy is pretty much the only arm of the military under actual federal chafing. These archaically organized forces have immensely differing quality in both training and equipment, are simply unsuited to modern combat in any way whatsoever, especially if required to fight for a nation they feel little allegiance to. So I'm gonna try, no promises. I'm gonna try to get us over to the election by the end of today's episode, but there's a lot of events which I will be reading because I find them interesting. It really lets you know what the political situation is in Brazil. Kaiserreich world at this time lets you know about the various factions and infighting that's going on. And I'm sure that the comment section will be full of people who are having on-topic discussions about this campaign instead of spouting whatever's the latest epic meme or something like that. I have total confidence in you. Ooh, we have somebody who's already combined. Really interesting generals with some of the stuff they have. Okay, United States of Brazil. Brazil's neutrality in the Weltkrieg kept the country at peace and with stability until the economic collapse following the crisis in its main trade partners after the British Revolution. The period of turmoil came to a head as the balance at play was put in jeopardy after both Sao Paulo and Minas Gerais each launched their own candidates for the 1926 elections. The stage was set for a major crisis and thus began the interstate war, also referred to as the Civil War. Sao Paulo had widespread support in its war against the federal government. Especially important was that of the northern and eastern state governors led by João Pessoa, and the Rio Grande do Sul state, whose historical borderland status meant it possessed a disproportionately strong military. This support, combined with its manufacturing and monetary advantages and the mutiny of the Federal Navy, resulted in the war ending in a victory for the rebels, and Fernando de Mello resigning in favor of Borges de Medeiros, who briefly ruled over the Republic and transitioned into the current constitution. Ever since, the Republic has transformed in many ways, especially economically, and has prospered in many ways as 2 presidents in a row were democratically elected. However, as the 1936 elections approach, political radicalism rises as syndicalists, anarchists, and integralists continue to engage in street fights, and rhetoric from politicians becomes more divisive and aggressive. Order and progress have a price. Alright, let's clean up this ugly color here. Alright, Father Cicero passed away this morning. Father Cicero Romão Batista died peacefully during his sleep at the old age of 92. The local leader, revered as a saint by the peasantry of the northeastern states, was seen as a great eminence by the political class in Ceará, acting as a neutral meditating party on disputes between the Corneios, the landed oligarchs of the northeast. So we just lost some stability because of that. Let me check something over here. Kerensky's dead. Oh no, who could have predicted this? Let's see if a civil war busts out. Whoops. Alright, the Carles regime, national populace here. In neighboring Argentina, the past few weeks have been troublesome at best. After a coup d'etat during the Christmas days, the radicals led by Manuel Carles have taken control of Argentina, citing incompetence by the authorities to properly deal with what seems to be a syndicalist revolt in remote regions. Reports coming from Argentina are sketchy and often conflicting. However, it has been almost a month since then, and Brazil needs to have an official stance on the regime in the south. Right now we are social conservatives, even though we're later going to become nat pops ourselves. We are going to denounce them. We're going to see how this all plays out. Actually, hold on. Cancel that. We're going to trade with Asia. We shouldn't be getting involved over there. Good, just gotta make sure that infantry equipment is coming out. Borderless charter. We're gonna try to swell up our army as quickly as we can so we can maybe send volunteers. They won't be very good, but it'll be something, right? But it's always fun. Brazil is a little bit like the United States. You don't really get to do much until you're hitting the election in November of 36. But it's always fun in the early game seeing how everybody ends up going. Who's fighting you and whatnot. Who's fighting who. Who's electing what. Dimitri's currently in charge in Russia. That could go a lot of different ways. And Afghanistan's going after India. See how that goes. Or some of them, like the Australasian Confederation, you don't really know which direction they're going until 39. Sometimes. See if Mexico is ever going to do more than just sit like a bump on a log. All right, the Travailleurs have triumphed in France. How's it going over here in Austria? Oh, we still got a month to go until their election. They go social conservative so much now. Before they wouldn't go at all. There was that bug. I remember I had to make a video explaining it. People were constantly asking, why can't I get social conservatives? And so you had to kind of game it. You had to wait for one of it. You had to wait until after the election to have a certain event go off. So you'll place your bets now as to what everybody's gonna do. Military equipment effort done. So what we want to do here, I'm thinking about rushing that research slot. Gives me some industry stuff on the way too, which is kind of nice. Oops, Black Monday just hit Brazil. Wasn't paying attention. Yeah, I really want to get that research slot. Okay. Disaster. Brazil faces ruin. No amount of panic would be too much, for the crashing of German economy cascades into our agriculture and nascent industry like a train into cattle. There is little we can do than watch the disaster unfold, as our budget collapses almost overnight. Our currency loses half its value, and millions in investments are cancelled and pulled out of the country. We don't even have the funds to pay vital government personnel as the situation stands now. Decades of planning, of prosperity, all gone to waste. So we lose 10 stability, and we now have Black Monday fallout. It's a particularly bad case of it. Minus 35 construction speed, minus 20% production efficiency cap, minus 40% factory output, minus 30% resources to market. Whoa, sorry. A little sleepy. It's been a rough couple days for me. Need that anymore. Restoration of democracy. Isn't that sweet? What's everyone else doing? I really hope that Middle Africa collapses. Tennis uprising quashed. After several days of discontent, the barracks in Porto Alegre have risen in revolt and were severely punished for their treason, a regrettable symptom of the trying times we live in. Stability and whatnot. Okay, so at the moment, we are the social conservatives. Okay, some factories closed down because of Black Monday. We are right now the Partido Republicano. The new political order arisen from the war between the states is one almost molded by the Republican Party and its members, who led the opposition to the federal government in that occasion. While not technically a party, since it's actually more akin to a federation of parties that exist on a state level, the high-ranking members of the Republicans have nationwide notoriety and wield equally immense political power. They've held this power in Brazil for a long time due to the powerful men that support them. Figures anywhere from industrialists to plantation owners ensure that the voting tends more often than not to be in their favor. While things may yet change, these political elites are anything if not adaptable. I don't think that's the proper sentence. And will always be considering ways to regain or maintain their power. What we're going to do is we have the Accio Integralista Brasileira. Integralism is a relatively young ideology in Brazil, imported mostly by Portuguese immigrants after the War of 27. Portuguese colonial fair, speaking of. The Kingdom of Portugal has opened a colonial fair in Rio de Janeiro to celebrate the bonds between Brazil and Portugal. While some leftists claim it is a shameless propaganda move by the colonialist state, Portuguese officials insist that the exhibition is purely scientific in nature and seeks to educate the people on Portugal's mission to civilize the Dark Continent, by comparing its colonies to those under German rule with great frequency. Said frequent comparisons have drawn the ire of the German ambassador to Brazil, as he claims they are slanderous claims on Governor Göring's upstanding character. Regardless of the political controversies, the many trinkets, objects, and even African kings brought are bound to bring people in large numbers to see the fair's many curiosities. Grand. Some of these are already ready. Whoops, should have been knocking these out earlier, my bad. Okay, check this out. There we go. Portugal, that's another one. That actually might be something I do simultaneously, is finally do a Portugal campaign, because I think Portugal is so cool. I think this is a a super fun country to play as, and it's so flexible. Yeah, I usually always go into the on top, but outside of that, it's a very very flexible country, and I've been wanting to play it for a while, so I might do that. I might just like as soon as this is done, exit, go start up that one, maybe do a poll to continue the Portugal or the Brazil one first for people. Maybe, maybe. Okay. Uh, we also have to be thinking about how we're going to get rid of the divided military at some point. The sooner we do that, the better. Basically, your choices here, or you could go federal army, which you have to pay a lot of political power and stability out of the gate, but you get it done fast, or you go down here to regionalist recruiting tactics, which will actually end with you having slightly more organization, but it takes longer. Time is money and what. Right now, let's just again, if I keep 1, 2, 3, not really spending the political power or anything. I get plenty of it later. I might do federal army. Yeah, let's start heading that way. First, I want to use these research bonuses correctly. Let's begin bridging the archipelago. Yeah, akin to an archipelago with cities and major centers being its islands. The vast, inaccessible unknown of the nation can greatly hinder our reaction speed to an invasion, but also may come to save it from invasion in the near future. What we need is a series of radio stations, for our army can always be ready to act at a moment's notice. Return to the coffee fires, just like in the past decade, our coffee piles up with nobody to buy it. The solution found by state governments is to burn the surplus of the harvests in large fires to keep the prices from utterly and completely collapsing again. This is certainly an extreme measure, but Black Monday's disastrous impact is far from over. Dark times are ahead. Burn, baby. Burn. Let's trade with... Who do we want to trade with? Friggin' Siam or something. No, not Siam. Trade with Japan. Okay, cool. We got our better infantry equipment. So it's going to take a little time to get the cap back up. And we're going to have the other infantry thing here soon, so let's get that. Yeah. Okay, syndicalist strikes in Sao Paulo with protests and workers' movements, gatherings in general. While protests and workers' movements gatherings in general are not at all an uncommon sight on May 1st, the strikes currently ongoing in Sao Paulo are noteworthy due to the very large number of workers who have laid down their tools. They are now, after some time of normal striking, preparing to barricade certain areas of the city, while knowing full well the consequences of this action. Little option remains to the state police than to crack down on these vile insurgents. Send them in. 3% stability, and it's a coin flip. A lot of stuff in Brazil is kind of random. You don't have total control over it. So I will just let come whatever may. Arms smugglers captured. Several unsavory individuals were captured today trying to smuggle arms from Rio Grande do Sul to Argentina. The guns seem to be of German origin, and they did fall directly under our lap. However, they are of uncertain origin and may very likely be stolen or have already been paid for. What should we do with the rather large amount of cargo? You can't outrun the law. Do that to get some political power. I think I am gonna do federal army. Just because this is 56 days, it focuses each. That's two other focuses I could spend elsewhere. Time is money. I want to do federal army and come over here, get science, and then that's it. I don't want to deal with any of this other stuff. Because either way here, I'll get a land doctrine mode. This way. I should just learn to live with a divided military. Yeah, and then maybe I could just go grab this later. Okay, on second thought, we will adapt the state militias into the hierarchy. Ooh, we'll lose 40 military experience when we don't have any anyway. Alright. Manuel Bandeira publishes Estrela de Manha. Sorry if I'm giving things the wrong accent. I don't know Portuguese. Renowned poet Manuel Bandeira has published yet another book, Estrela de Manha, which is also bound to be acclaimed by the public. Known for his modernist and innovative style, the author has frequently gone against the current of well-organized poetry, especially in recent years. Having arrived back in Brazil after years in Europe at the outbreak of the Weltkrieg, work gradually became more heterodox in each book, with subjects of poems often mixing comedic deathly or even vulgar tones. Its drift towards modernism is very well shown in his most recent book. While praise is almost universal in more modern literary circles, some intellectuals like Plinio Salgado slam the poet as cheap and overly cynical. Grand. Okay, so that was just a flavor text kind of thing. Alright, let's keep moving. Okay, Arthur Horner is elected chairman of the TUC. Okay, so the Union of Britain is going to be pretty strong. Yeah. And I don't think we're going to get to the election today. I don't want to make it an extra long episode. They lost Qatar. Ball did. See how that goes. Really trying to keep an eye on Africa. I hope it breaks up. We can really start to have some fun if it does. Alright, tennis uprisings quashed. More barracks have risen up in revolt. This time in Salvador, the local garrison demanded fairer prices and a better democracy, but said vague demands were silenced by loyalists who stormed their barricaded living quarters. A minor inconvenience. So, we lose stability, we lose political power. What else is new? There has been a coup in Siam. Anarchist uprising. If it's not one thing, it's another. In Rio, consequences of the Battle of Sao Paulo were felt this week as an anarchist uprising occurred in the northern areas of the federal district. While few in number, having an actively lawless area so near the capital could be dangerous, and thus our officers are taking immediate action. Stability again, we're down to just 8%. Let's grab the construction. This infrastructure up. Gutio Vargas, Courts States Leader. So that's the head of the party. He is the... I think... Here we go. Partido Nacional Trabajista, while traditionally decentralized for decades and even with major army opposition against any kind of overt centralism, a new kind of state is often purported to defend and maintain Brazil's sovereignty in the chaotic situation in the world where crisis and recession looms at every corner. Strong and bold leadership with one man to be father of Brazil's poor and downtrodden, and to act with a firm hand against those who would do Brazil harm. That's Vargas there. Has met with several important figures from other states, especially those from the Northeast, that backed him in his term. He seems to be laying the groundwork for a candidacy for the presidency. His plans for a more active government which can energetically act against crisis situations have found listeners in the meeting. He's technically the Republican candidate, but he is the head of the paternal autocrats, which is why if you go Vargas, you get the new state. Well, you can get the new state. You don't have to. It's an option. The ED names Mangabeira as their candidate. So the ED here, this is the Esquerda Democrática. The labor movement in Brazil is small and incredibly fractured along regional and ideological lines. In an attempt to improve the livelihoods of Brazilians, several moderate leaders have spent the past few years attempting to organize a broad, unified left front to run for the elections and show the will of the proletariat in a democratic fashion. While the aptly named Democratic Left did have presidential candidates before 1936, those were of middling importance and appeal, and could not even gather support among major unions. It would take a major shakeup in the political landscape of the labor movement as a whole to allow the broad front to gain traction, but if such a feat could be achieved, it could be a credible threat to the predatory crony capitalists who currently held power in Brazil. So the Democratic Left is a very broad front formed by people that range from former Republicans frustrated with the lack of aid to the common people to syndicalists who seek to gain power via democratic methods. This big tent organization of the party made choosing a presidential candidate difficult, even if it wasn't a particularly contentious process. João Mangabeira is probably more well known for being the left-wing brother of President Mangabeira than his own career, but this recognition may very well be his greatest asset in what is probably going to be a complicated electoral process. The nomination is just the beginning of his journey, for he needs to properly build a left front with several factions, such as with the Union, the FAB. So the FAB is up here, the Confederação Geral do Trabalho, Federação Anarquista Brasilia. Second, we need to do yeah, now we'll do standardized. Okay. Where were we? So these guys. The radical left in Brazil is extremely divided over minor nuances in ideology, and few can actually agree on what a Brazil ran by the workers would look like. The Brazilian Anarchist Federation and the Labor Confederation, regardless took control. That was to be expected. Have in many ways attempted to remedy this by reconciling extremely disparate views under the banner of gaining better working conditions right now rather than seek utopia later. This simple goal grants it far larger adhesion than rival associations, and it enjoys relatively good membership in large cities like Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. Said large membership allows strikes to be powerful bargaining tools, and the frequent violent clashes have made the FAB and other socialist organizations associated with disorder and street battles in the public eye. Okay, the Christian Socialists took power here in Italy, so no reactionaries, please. The AIB's presidential candidate has been announced. So the AIB is us, which I already read. That is the Integralists. It is a movement eclectic in nature, but recent years have settled it as a monarchistic, Lusitanian-inspired party that defends Catholic values and with great participation from the poor, especially from the Afro-Brazilians. Said participation and commitment to racial equality is represented by their former candidate to the presidency and current VP nominee Arlindo Vieira dos Santos, a deeply monarchistic individual who denounces the leaders of the Republic as former slave lords who just mask themselves under new guises. However, the presidential candidate Gustavo Don Barroso is far more hostile and has not been shy in demonstrating his anti-Semitism, claiming the capitalist classes of Brazil are puppets of the elders of Zion. So a little bit of vice presidential and presidential friction there. The men have fundamentally different visions in many areas, but they agree on the basic integralist principles, and more importantly, on that the Republic is a rotten carcass that only serves the few and the powerful. Two very different men under one cause, but got a little popularity boost. Look at that! Wow, 14%. That ties us with the Social Democrats, or the second biggest party in the country right now. Actually, not bad, not too shabby. Who's gonna win in the U.S.? Vargas announced as Republican candidate. Vargas's career seems to have always been headed towards this, from his early positions in Rio Grande do Sul to a successful state presidency in terms of turmoil, to being vice president of the most popular head of state in Brazilian history. His rise has been very fast for the traditionally slow climb of politics Brazil entails. He announced his intentions to run for president officially earlier today in Porto Alegre to a... Why am I doing the Y? It's just an L. Alegre. Double L's the ye. To a roaring crowd of citizens who wish for the Republic to finally achieve stability and are tired of opportunists attempting to deceive them. Among his promised goals is a planned industrialization program, better salaries for workers, and bringing Brazil to the modern age. The social conservatives just got a little stronger because he's going to run as a Republican, but yeah, leader of the paternal autocrats. Okay. PL time. The PL, so this is the Partido Liberal, the old political order that was dismantled in the war between the states, was influenced by many who are now part of the Brazilian Liberal Party. Like the more influential and powerful Republicans, the Liberals are closer to a federation of parties that exist at a state level than a proper organization with a unified vision and set of proposals. The fall of the old party chiefs swayed the balance of power among liberals away from the traditional centers, and thus many of the notables of the party are from south or northeastern areas of Brazil. In general, they lack the apparatus and personnel the Republicans have used to share their names and their candidates with the common folk, even if they do have many newspapers and intellectuals favoring their party. The ideological heterodoxy of the party is great. The most common unifying factor is a belief in positivism and classic liberal ideas, but even those concepts are not universal among party members. Liberal Party, okay, I just talked about this here. The positive leaders from Sao Paulo and Rio Grande do Sul have met today and decided for Julio Prestes to be their nominee for the presidency, something of a consensus candidate among the homogenous party lines. While the odds may not look particularly good for a liberal victory at first glance, the controversial opinions of the other candidates may drift the more centrist electorate toward their coalition. Natural choice. Yeah, now it's things are kind of evening up. No love for the market liberals. It's too centralist. Okay, what else is going on in the world? What's the Italian Republic? Oh, right, they don't have their election yet either. I don't think the Russian Civil War is happening. That's too bad. And wow, is Mongolia gonna lose? And Poland went with their Polish king. That's pretty rare. You don't see that too often. At least I don't see it too often. Okay, but we're going to stop it here. Thank you for joining me. I am Conquering History Games. In the next episode, we're only a couple of months away from the election, so we'll have that happen. We've gotten most of the events out of the way. And then once we have the national populace in power, we're going to really start to have some fun. And I'll see you then. Please be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you're always notified whenever a new episode goes up in this series. I'll see you then. Goodbye.